Okay, we'll go ahead and get started for this evening. The city manager will be along here in just a little bit, but Mr. Henley will start us off here. So, Mr. Henley, do we have anything, council meeting follow-up?
Not from the...
Kill me, Pete. Anybody else have anything from the last council meeting? All right. So we're going to jump down the agenda. We're going to go ahead and go down to the missing persons legislation. So, Mr. Henley.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Tonight we have Deputy Chief Cheney along with Ms. Tanako, who are here to talk about the missing persons legislation. As you will recall, at least some of you from the last council group, back in December of 2020, Ms. Tanako came in and talked with us a little bit about missing persons and the difficulty in following them and tracking them and trying to keep up and help the families that suffer a person that goes missing. As a result of that, there's been some action at the state legislative arena, and they are working on a bill that they anticipate taking up this year. And in addition, our local police department has worked hard in establishing some hard and fast procedures which are nationally recognized as being very effective. So the city of Casper is looking to take the lead, at least with respect to assisting the state in drafting legislation, and of course, and then in following up with our own policies and procedures. And we are so basically here to provide information to you and make sure that that you are generally on board with the thought processes. And if it's appropriate now, we'd call up Mr. Cheney and or Vice Deputy Cheney and have him visit with you.
Okay. Deputy Chief Cheney.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I don't have a lot of front-end work, but I think from a community expectation point, we should up our standards when it comes to investigating these and even handling missing person cases. We should support minimum standards statewide for reporting and investigative measures to include a statewide database or a clearinghouse, if you will. That clearinghouse would help collect, possess, and disseminate accurate and complete information when it comes to missing persons. They'd help training with other agencies, to include law enforcement agencies, when it comes to what that training looks like when you take a missing person case. Set some timelines. Maybe we set a timeline that once you take a missing persons case, you got 2 hours to send your information to the clearinghouse. Any updates that you may get along the way, you would send that to the clearinghouse. So if you were told you were wearing a black shirt, but later found out you're wearing a red shirt, and that stuff had to be done in a timely manner to make sure that information was updated. It would be the clearinghouse's responsibility to take that information and put that back out to law enforcement and the community at large, and then they would have a on their website the missing person information, and it'd be updated and timely information. To include, this would take away some of the officer's individual discretion to rationalize, for being a former police officer, rationalize this officer's or that individual's behavior, such as, well, he's just over at a buddy's house sleeping it off because you guys got into a domestic squabble, if you will. It would provide those benchmarks that you're going to take this report, you're going to do it within a couple hours, and it would help us when we do our investigations that we have this stuff done timely versus waiting a week or 2 weeks and we're behind the ball. Because in the police department itself, we front load all our information. We check the National Missing Persons and Unidentified Person systems. We check license plate readers. If it's an incident down in Colorado where they have toll roads, we reach out to them, see if those vehicles may have been passed there. We ask for bank records, DNA from family members, things like that. So we try to get as much information on the front end. But if you're 2 weeks behind on somebody's missing, that puts you forever and a day behind, if that makes sense. So we would support that, and I'd be willing to answer any questions if you have.
Anybody have any questions? Councilman, no.
Manpower, hours, and your budget, is this going to put a constraint on any of those?
From my understanding in the conversations that have been involved in, this would be something on the state level. This would be a full-time employee on the state level that we would coordinate with out of DCI.
Cool.
It'd actually be more beneficial to get this information on the front end as opposed to waiting, where it would take more time or man hours.
Right.
Anybody else got any questions? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but how many missing cases do we have right now? And whether it's here locally or within the state?
We have, I don't know how many statewide. I know we have 2 top priority ones that are recent ones right now, one of which that we're actively, I can give you some numbers on the one we're actively working on. We have, to date, with just the most recent one, we've executed 18+ search warrants to include residents, vehicles, things like that. We've taken 4 out-of-town trips to do follow-ups with family members, potential leads with persons of interest. We've invested 900+ man-hours between 3 and 4 agencies. So combined with all that group effort, we've got that much time involved in it. We've done offline NCIC searches, public record searches, things like that, bank account information, looking at bank accounts, license plate readers, and then we're checking the, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System on a daily basis to see if maybe somebody wound up in that. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
If the council would desire, Ms. Tanako is here tonight and could again come up if she's so inclined and visit with you with your permission and just kind of remind some of the newer council members as to why we're involved with this and some of the problems that she's seen with respect to trying to get missing persons registered and get some type of consistent follow-up with respect to their treatment around the state and around the region.
Okay. Ms. Tanako?
Okay, so I know it's been a little while since I've spoke to council. I'll tell you briefly how I got started in on this. Hold this here. So I started a Facebook group a couple years ago for missing people in Wyoming. It quickly escalated into something I did not see it becoming. Shortly after, I started to look at databases in different states, realized we don't have one in Wyoming available to the public. We're one of 13 states that doesn't have something, be it that we don't have a database or it's not user-friendly. So what we're asking for is the city to help get on board with this and jump ahead in, because the legislation's already going to happen, but this will help mold it into what it could be and should be. Being that we're one of the biggest populated areas in Wyoming, it'll be really beneficial for us to help kind of shape that. So we've got somebody already ready to write the legislation up. The governor's office has reached out to me personally and said that he's on board with anything as far as the database goes. And the head of DCI has reached out to me personally, wants to do a meeting coming up. So this is all moving in a great direction, and I think with your guys' support, we can go forward. The legislation we're looking at doing is similar to that of South Dakota's. It's 3 pages long, and they just enacted that 2 years ago. If you want to have copies of that along with our stats, we're ranked 7th in the nation for missing persons per capita. So I don't know if you guys want these or not, but yeah, if you have any questions.
Okay. Councilman Gamros.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for coming to speak this evening. It sounds like you've been involved in the process and you approve of the direction we're going with this at the moment? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. It sounds like you're kind of one of the authorities on the matters.
Anybody else? You okay?
Just would like to have a copy of the legislation.
Yeah,
if you have
here.
that available. Thanks for bringing that.
There's plenty of copies there for you guys, so you could just take the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Mr. Henley, do we have anything else on that? It says direction requested. Are you?
I think that we were just wanted to make sure that the council was on board with that. Obviously, this will take up a bit of staff time communicating with state legislators and providing additional information and doing updates like this for you if you so desire.
Okay, yeah.
So, thumbs up?
Thumbs up? Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll move back to the Murray Audubon Society wetland request. Mr. Henley.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We have a request from the local Audubon Society, the Murray Audubon Society. They own some property which is just to the south of the Murad Park, which is an off-leash area for dogs, and all of us are familiar with that. It's a pretty popular area. They own a fairly sizable piece of property there, and they're hoping that they can rejuvenate that by fencing it off so that it would limit the amount of dogs that would simply kind of go up there and run through, and again, some wildlife, particularly wetland wildlife, mostly birds, of course, and so the Audubon Society would come back in and reestablish there and could then begin to thrive. As it turns out, this is back away from the path and the parking lot, which typically you'll see if you're out there to walk your dogs and to or to go just on the trails up and down, or to put in the river there. We have a number of people who are here tonight and who have been working on this and coordinating with it. We have several from the Murray Audubon Society. We have one speaker, Zach Hutchinson, who is here, and he's definitely would like to visit with you with your permission. We have 3 other members from the Audubon Society, the local Audubon Society, Jenny Edwards, Larry Keffer, Scott Stacy. I believe we have one more. And we have Matt Pollock from the Game and Fish Department. And then we have Jim Gerhardt, who is the park supervisor on the go-to meeting that's available if need be. And we have Ethan Yonker here to help explain the maps, which were included in the packet. And the city has a parcel of land which is 1.6 acres or thereabouts, and they're hoping that when they're fencing off their property, as well as some of the game and fish property, that you would give them permission to fence off that property as well, which borders theirs. It would make it actually a kind of a straighter corner with respect to one area of their property that they would like to fence off. And then finally, but certainly not least, we have Eagle Scout candidate with us tonight, who is Watt Warner, who has agreed to kind of head up the effort here, and particularly with respect to the volunteer recruitment. This is an idea which the Audubon Society has come through with. Mr. Warner has agreed to help them out. There are various people who are going to help them out. The Platte River Revival Habitat Guidance Committee will also help with volunteers as far as putting this up. It should be basically of no cost to the city as far as dollars outlaid. And with that, if we could have, with your permission, Mr. Hutchinson, Zach Hutchinson, come up and visit with you, and then we have these other people available for questions, and perhaps we could have Mr. Warner at least come up and introduce himself.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Zach Hutchinson. I'm the Community Science Coordinator for Audubon Rockies and also a board member for Murray Audubon Society, which is the local Casper chapter of the National Audubon Society. So Murray Audubon Society had begun fencing their property off a few years ago before the pandemic, and during that process, the idea came up that what if we could protect this entire wetland complex and not just the piece that lies on the Murray property. And that is where that idea actually developed from. We ceased our fencing, cutting off the property from the Morad Park side, and then also approached the idea with Game and Fish about removing their eyesore fence, which is an old, that it was an energy building prior to Game and Fish, I believe, and they have a very large 8-foot fence with barbed wire at the top. So it would remove that old fence, connecting that wetland complex, and then essentially it's not going to be fenced off as an exclosure. It's more just going to be a barrier to deter off-leash dogs and keep them on the Morad side and out of that wetland complex, which is, kind of an area that Murray Audubon used to enjoy as a bird sanctuary, but has been a lessened experience because of the off-leash dogs as of late.
Councilman Nell.
I've looked at this map till I'm blue, and I'm trying my best to try to really understand it, but if I'm correct, looking at where you want to put the fence, does that take all of the water at Morad Park out of play for the animals, for the dogs?
No, in fact, it only fences off one small pond that is on Morad Park. The rest of those ponds are on Murray Audubon property. So only one small pond, which is the southwestmost pond, will no longer be outside of that protected area, But there are still about 4 or 5 additional wetlands and ponds within Morad Park that will still be fully accessible for anyone using the park. And then river access won't change either.
Councilman Cathy.
What type of fence are you planning on putting up?
The current spec that we're going with is going to be a 3-foot high woven wire with smooth wire above. And again, only going with that design simply because if we did smooth wire the whole way down, or even barbed for that matter, it wouldn't actually deter dogs. There used to be a buck rail fence that was up between the 2 properties, and we removed that because that didn't deter anything either, and it began to deteriorate. So Muri Audubon removed that 4 or 5 years ago. But that is the current design, and with the help of our Eagle Scout friend who's here tonight, there'll be some more decorative style posts than just regular T-posts. So it'll be a woven wire to act as an actual barrier that prevents dogs from passing through, but still allows smaller organisms to move through. And then because it won't be an exclosure, ungulates, other large animals will still be able to pass around if they so choose.
Okay. And no barbed wire?
No barbed wire, no.
Councilwoman Ingebretson.
What is your timeline that you were looking at of completing this project?
With council's approval, we think we can have it done in 2 volunteer days in September.
Councilman Gamroth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to confirm, Mr. Hutchinson, this won't cut off any of the, I know the main path runs right there along the river, but there's no loss of access to pathways at Morad Park or anything like that, correct?
Correct. It'll be receded from the trail a significant amount just due to floodplain restrictions. We have to move the fence back. So it will be removed from the trail enough that even a mower can still pass through. I know Mr. Gerhardt, who's on tonight on the go-to meeting, their mowers pass through there. So it'll be enough at least for that. And then on the city's property, it will actually be a very large buffer. We're really only just kind of angling away from the southwesternmost part of the trail just to add that last little wetland that sits below. If you're familiar with the large metal structure that sits above Morad Park there, that is owned by Muri Audubon. There's one small wetland that sits right on the property line, and that's all we're basically asking to add, is just so that whole complex, which is all kind of fed by some of the same water sources, are protected together. So no trail will be impacted by this.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you, Council.
Let me see if you have other questions for Mr. Pollock, who's with the Game and Fish. This would probably be an appropriate time. And then, like I say, Mr. Warner, if we could just have him come up and introduce himself.
Absolutely. Mr. Pollock.
Good afternoon, Mayor Field, council members. I'm here representing the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, and just to say that we are in support of this motion and are going to participate in removing some of our fence and help with some of the other volunteer day projects and assist our Eagle Scout any way we can.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions? The only question I had is whether you were in on this, so.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks, sir.
We've discussed it with our regional leadership team, and we're all on board.
Okay. All right. Thanks, sir.
Mr. Wyatt Warney, excuse me, let me get that right, just to make sure we got.
He's behind us.
Warner. Wyatt Warner.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Yeah, my name is Wyatt Warner. I'm with Scout Troop 1035, and I just wanted to start on my Eagle Scout, so I came in and was talking to Jolene, and she suggested this idea, so.
So you're going to head this project up and make sure it happens?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions of me? Councilwoman Ingebretson.
So with you heading this up, who else is going to be assisting you?
All of like our scout members that are in our troop, and then whoever comes to the day to assist with that project.
And the Boy Scouts are going to be the ones making the fence for this project?
Well, we're going to be the ones building it, yes.
Building the fence? Okay.
Councilman Gamros.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to let you know, I appreciate you taking this project on. It sounds like a good one. I've always been a big believer in, leaving nature better than you found it. And I think for a lot of people, access to wildlife is important. That's, part of the reason a lot of people live in Wyoming. And so, sounds like a cool project, and looking forward to see what the outcomes of it will be. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Thank you for taking this on.
A variety of other folks, if you have any questions for them. If not, if we could just have your approval so that you can formally consider this at another upcoming meeting.
So, Mr. Henley, I would assume on our property itself, there's, again, same question, we're not cutting access off to anything. Do you see any issues with our portion of it being fenced off?
No, it's a small amount, and as they say, it's not going to be totally fenced, not a total enclosure. Certainly no transfer of property interest or property rights, just letting them use a small part of that to have a straighter line, I think, with respect to the enclosure.
Okay. Anybody else want to hear from anybody else on this? All right, everybody okay with this?
My
Councilman
only concern is, and I know he said it's not going to affect the dogs, but I just don't want us to have 500 dog owners in here beating us over the head over this. So I just want to make sure and be very clear that we're not affecting the dogs being able to get to the water. And I mean, I understand you don't want them in the bird sanctuary, but there is other water available for the dogs in that park. It's my only concern because a lot of dog owners use that park. I just want to make sure they have access to the water, and the river moves so fast through there and is so deep that they've got to have that other little, and I believe you said there was one other one that they can access, correct? 4 or 5. Okay, good. That's my only concern. So thank you.
Okay, are we good in moving forward with this? All right. All right, thank you. And we'll move on to discussion of restrictions for retail liquor license number 5 at the Commissary Mall. Mr. Henley.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a matter that has come to attention of staff. We've kind of been monitoring retail license number 5 the past year. As you'll see from the memo that actually the state was contacted, and there had been no liquor purchases for liquor license number 5 since December of 2020. The council, the last time you met and visited with the owner of the liquor license, Mr. Taylor, he was to come back in and provide a progress report to you the first meeting in September, that September meeting, which will be the next one after this. As part of, I don't know if it's part of his efforts or part of the Commissary Mall ownership's efforts, they have been working to upgrade the Commissary Mall. They have certain plans and thoughts in mind, which I'll be, I would hope that they would be ready to come and visit with you about and tell you about their plans and their investments and what they hope to do with that building down there that you'll see kind of across from the Nicolason Art Museum on the northern side. But I think to do that, they're looking for liquor licenses, and it turns out I think they've been talking with Mr. Taylor. I kind of got a heads up from the Wirtz Group today that there may be something formalized with Mr. Taylor kind of pending your thought processes on this. My anticipation is that they are going to talk with you about doing this project, but that one of the considerations would be the ability to be able to have a retail liquor license. And but the Commissary Mall is not, of course, in a position right now to accommodate that or to begin operation with that. So again, it would be another deferral of time to get that license up and running. And so that would be the thing that you probably need to be concentrating on if you so choose, and trying to balance that with the improvements and the opportunity for another liquor establishment in the downtown corridor. And with that, I think we have one or two people here from Wirtz. I know that I'd seen Kyle Ridgway in the audience before, and I believe that Bob Moberly is at least scheduled to be here, and I haven't turned around to see if I can see him yet. Oh, there he is. Sure enough.
Mr. Moberly?
Mayor, council members, thank you. I think Kyle handed out to you some architect's renderings for the Commissary Mall. The liquor license plays a big part of that renovation, if you will. We would put in a packaged liquor store, a bar, and then a gaming parlor for the off-track historic horse racing machines downtown. It's one of the few places downtown that has adequate parking to hold quite a few people, and we think it'd be a nice improvement for a gateway building to the downtown area. So having said that, I'll turn it over to Kyle because I'm kind of hard of hearing, and if I'd answer the wrong question because I never quite get them all. So this is Kyle Ridgway.
Council members, yeah, Bob gave a pretty good summary of what we're doing. Actually, today we signed a contract with Travis Taylor to acquire the liquor license that he had held. I gave Mr. Henley a copy of that agreement. We just got that done this afternoon. So one of the conditions of that purchase agreement would be obviously that it's contingent on closing, on the approval from the city council and the other relevant administrative processes you have to go through for a transfer of a retail liquor license. But we anticipate having that to the council within about 30 days in terms of having the application for the transfer figured out now that we've got the contract done. And then, you know, the schematic of the build out of the Commissary Mall, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, what we kind of feel like we're doing is we're kind of killing two birds with one stone for the council here. We've been able to you know, actually come with a plan for proposed use for this liquor license in a reasonable period of time. And at the same time, clean up a building that I know the council's been looking for historically to see something done with for a long time. And Works Group is now in a position to be able to do that. And we have the use for it because one of our subsidiaries is 307 Horse Racing, which, as you know, we're a new competitor in the historic horse racing space, and this would be our first location in Casper. We would envision a full use of that retail liquor license. So we would have the packaged liquor store, the bar, and then the gaming location. And that makes the first floor of that building, as you can see in the drawings, basically fully used with a cleaned up building. The only thing that, you know, we may do to the building outside of what Amundsen and Associates, who did a wonderful job putting this together for us, is, you know, we'll probably have some signage and some lighting and some things like that to make it an attraction for people to come to and you know, to come as a consumer to the location. We want to be able to attract some people, some good signage and lighting and things like that. But with construction, it's hard to give a projected date on how long something like this would take, but we've got a general contractor that we work with who's got some availability and some time to get started, and we'd like to get started on demo, you know, in the next couple of weeks, probably sometime in September, to do what we need to do with that building with remediation and everything else. It could take us, you know, 9, 10, 12 months to have it completed and ready to open. But we'd be thinking sometime next summer or next fall, we'd be able to open a gaming location and have the construction done. But obviously, we don't want to do a slipshod job on improving the building. We want to make it an attractive place for the community and for, you know, potential gamers. So that would be the main piece of the retail liquor licenses. Again, you know, you're looking at a deferral on this particular license, but Mr. Moberly and myself and the Works Group believe that, you know, we have a plan that we can actually present with architectural drawings, with contracts with a contractor, that we're ready to break ground and we're ready to start moving, and we've got an actual plan that we can present for operation. The gaming entity is already licensed to have historic horse racing machines. Our first location in Gillette will be open next month. So that's not a thing that you'd have to wait on either, and we can get this location permitted well in advance of the opening. So it's a pretty straightforward deal. Yeah, we also, all the tenants in the commissary have already been moved out of the building effective by the end of September, so we can start construction. So we've taken concrete steps, and we're prepared to present with our liquor license application a real plan that, you know, part of why we wanted to bring this today was so you could understand the seriousness with which we want to undertake this project and go forward, and that this is a this is a real thing that we're prepared to invest in and prepared to move forward on a business case. And the liquor license obviously is a huge part of making this viable, but we don't see any reason why the council wouldn't approve it and give us a little bit of leave for us to improve this building. And it kind of helps everybody solve a problem that's been sitting for a long period of time. Not necessarily just the liquor license itself, but the building in and of itself. So we want to add some value to the downtown area with that as well.
Mr. Ridgway, just to, I guess, recap then, the liquor license will be transferred out of Travis Taylor's name into yours or into your corporation, and then you'll probably have at least a year's build-out time. So it'll sit parked for a year, but the ultimate plan is to end up with this, what we have in front of us.
Correct. So the entity that's acquiring the liquor license on the contract is 307 Horse Racing. That's the gaming entity. They'll operate we'll have to break that out corporate-wise, however we break that out for operation of the bar versus the gaming location itself. But the building is owned by another wholly owned subsidiary, Wyoming Financial Properties. So the building, build-out, and the operations are all part of the same corporate family that's 100% owned by the Works Group, which is, Mr. Moberly and myself and the rest of the shareholders in Wyoming who, believe in 307 First and reinvested in the community here in Wyoming, trying to keep more money in Wyoming. And so we think that's a win-win-win for everybody.
Okay. Councilwoman Ingbretson.
I just want to clarify, so there's not going to be any kind of restaurant at this facility, correct?
There wouldn't be a full-service restaurant, no. We'll probably have to have some kind of food service. We haven't fully fleshed out what the planning for that would look like. In these casinos, you've got to be able to serve some kind of food. So what we've talked about is having partnerships with food trucks on big nights, similar to what Frontier does or other bars have done, to have some food there. But we'll have some kind of food service, but it's not planned to be a full restaurant. It may be, some pizza and some hot dogs, pretzels, finger food, kind of things like that. Because if someone's going to sit in a casino, you've got to be able to serve them something to make sure we're not over serving people. And that's part of what comes with the Wyoming Gaming Commission's regulation of the operation of the location itself. But we're not planning on having like a full-blown restaurant that's going to have specific space in it. But we'll have some food service available for people that are at the bar or in the gaming location, because you just have to have that to be a responsible owner.
I think I know where you're going. So just to clarify, though, this is a direct purchase from Travis Taylor to another corporation. This is not a license that we hold as a city and we're going to issue to somebody. This is a direct purchase between two parties. Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Thank you. That was actually a great segue. Thank you. Appreciate you guys reinvesting in the community. I think it's an important aspect, especially during this time. I've been on council quite a while and been a part of this specific license, and we've had some issues with that. And so I really want to see this license get out there, start making money and start doing that. That was a bit of our frustration behind that. And so the commitment, I'm hoping, and it sounds like you guys are ready to commit to put that out there to say, you know what, we're going to do this, and within the next 9 months to 12 months, it's going to be really a good thing for the community. So if we get that commitment, I'm all for this and want to make sure that this is out there. And like we said, we've been sitting on this for 4 years, I think, which is just a shame. So I appreciate you guys getting out there and investing and doing that. So thank you.
Councilman Nell.
Thank you. And to piggyback on the Vice Mayor, this particular license has been a pain, and we've been hoodwinked several times. And I guess the point I'm making is, if we go through this, we're going to want to make sure that this thing goes through, because if it doesn't in a year or a year and a half, I don't think this council is going to be as patient anymore when it comes to this license. These are handed out in order to create economic development and to create things like this, and that's not what's happened. So we've been, I guess, hoodwinked a few times on stuff like this. So I hope the best for you. I hope it goes through, but I would certainly think you'd have to come back and revisit with us in a year's time if we haven't seen any movement on this. So, and I hope you understand that it's certainly nothing against you, but we've been through quite a bit with this one. So good luck to you. I hope it works.
Councilman, I understand what you're saying. We wouldn't come here if we weren't serious about it. We wouldn't have hired an architect if we weren't serious about it. We have a business case to open a location in Casper for gaming. So we've got to open a location to have a gaming operation in town. The only way we can do that is with a liquor license, realistically, for it to work, as you know from some of the other operators that have come before you. So I think we're deadly serious on this particular project, and I don't, you know, what I don't want is the history with this particular license to affect us, because while we were a landlord for a period of time related to where it was operated out of, you know, we come to the council clean with good intention and prepared to open this location and start work on it. And I know that's not what you're saying, but I just, you know, want you to understand that our business case to open this location is incredibly strong. So we're prepared to do it.
And I do get that, but as a follow-up, we had another casino entity come to us for a liquor license, and they were denied 0 to 9. Now, there is still one available for them through a restaurant liquor license. So I'm expecting we're probably going to catch some flack over that at some point too. But I guess it should be publicly said that this was bought privately from someone that owned it, and the city really didn't have anything to do with it. So
that's correct. City had nothing to do with this. This was a private transaction between two parties, one of whom held a liquor license.
Did you have some? Councilman Cathy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is your kind of overall timeline? Because I know this license would be due for renewal next spring. Do you plan on being half done with your remodel by then, a quarter done? What kind of a time frame, again, to show progress? And we realize you are a new entity and everything, and there is planning. This has to get through plan review, all of that type of stuff, but didn't know what kind of a time frame you were looking at from that standpoint.
I think the time frame would be we'd be fully open and operational within a year, including the gaming location. Part of the delay with the gaming location is there's supply chain issues with acquiring the games in the first place, which takes some time, but we can open in phases too, where some of what we've discussed is opening the liquor store and the bar while the gaming location opens at a separate time, or we can open in phases. But what we'd be prepared to do is, I mean, we're going to have a general contractor on the project. We're going to be pulling building permits, and so it won't be difficult for you to be able to hold us accountable as to whether we're making progress or not, because we can come before the council every quarter and give a status update with the general contractor if that's what we need to do. But ideally, we would like to be fully open and operational within a year. But again, you have material issues, you have all kinds of different supply chain issues that are outside of our control with some of that too. But we know we've got contractors available now to start working, so we want to get to work as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Ridgway, I, for one, I'm 100% behind this. It's just like the Vice Mayor said, this has been going on for quite some time, but I know where you guys are going. I know what you've got going on, and I have absolutely all the faith in the world that this is going to happen. And if it takes a year, if it takes 16 months personally, it's going to be an active license again. It's not going to be parked anymore. So I'm okay with that amount of time, whatever it takes to get this opened back up, personally myself, because it won't be sitting parked anymore. And I, for one, won't be holding anything against you from the fact that it's been parked for the last 4 years. So I'm all for it. So anybody else? Councilman Nell.
I don't want you to think I was against you, because that wasn't the case. I was looking to lay some groundwork because I anticipate us getting some heck from not approving a different one. And that's why I wanted to make sure that it was known that this was private, you know what I'm saying? So I'm quite sure Mr. Moberly and his group will get this thing moving just the way it's supposed to, so.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have any other discussion on this?
No formal discussion. I think the next step, though, the ball will still be in Mr. Taylor's court, because he'll have to make the application to transfer the license. So hopefully that can be accomplished relatively soon, since there apparently is an agreement to purchase this pending council's approval. So maybe that'll get moving fast, and the council can rest a bit of, have some assurance that this will really get done.
So our time frame again from Mr. Taylor to get this taken care of is the end of the year, correct?
It was basically, he had to have something done by the end of the year. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. You need anything else from us on that then?
I don't think we need anything. Hopefully, we'll see you back here on the same issue in the not-too-distant future.
Okay. We'll get Councilmember Pollock back in here. And I'm glad to see us going back into service. Yeah, yeah. So, yep. Okay, we'll go on to agenda review. Mr. Henley, do we have anything on that?
Really, the only thing is we have no council meeting next week, it's 5th Tuesday, so it's one of the ones that we're not going to try to get you in on a special meeting, so.
Well, it's good to know. Some of us might have shown up here. All right, and then, other than that, what's our deadline on the new applications for the open seat?
Oh, you know, and I don't know offhand. Mr. Meyer will know.
It's the 3rd, isn't it? I think so. September 3rd. September 3rd?
September 3rd at 5 p.m., that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
In fact, I think on our agenda review, it says they'll be giving us that material at our meeting on the 7th.
Okay. All right. Legislative review, do you have anything there, Mr. Henley?
Nothing more than you've heard already about the missing person legislation. I think that Representative Washit from Casper is also playing a part in that.
Okay. All right. We'll go council around the table. Councilman Nell.
I did have some. September is right around the corner. That is Suicide Awareness Month. So I just wanted to get a jump start on that and get people thinking about those that are in need of mental health and keeping our community, I guess, supported and safe. Other than that, I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Cathy? Nothing. Councilmember Pollock?
Thank you, Mayor. We may not have a council meeting next Tuesday, but there is an opportunity. The MPO will be hosting a public meeting for the one-way to two-way conversion study. That'll be happening the downstairs meeting room here at City Hall. And we'll be taking public comment on that particular conversion proposal. And then there's another opportunity for public comment as well on the Casper area bicycle and pedestrian plan. So for all the folks who are interested in the pedestrian friendliness of our community, bikeability, walkability, that is on the website, casperareampo.org, or you can offer comments at the MPO office. And that's all I have.
Councilwoman Ingebretson.
Nothing for me tonight.
Councilman Gamroth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. Last weekend, there was a great turnout at Riverfest and the Duck Derby. The bouldering park is really incredible over there, so I would encourage citizens to check it out. Please read the sign, talking about, some of the basic rules and stuff. Don't be horse playing around on top of a 10-foot boulder. But it's very, very cool, and I had heard, I think it was reported that Platte River Trails raised 40 grand from Riverfest, and at our Rotary Club meeting on Monday, I believe it was mentioned that, there was a 20% increase in ticket sales for Duck Derby as well. So very successful weekend for both of those organizations. And again, if you like what they do, I would encourage you to support them at, they have other fundraisers throughout the year, or you can get involved on their boards or support them otherwise. I do know several organizations, including Wyoming Food for Thought and Casper Housing Authority, are exploring the use of CDBG funds for some community projects, and considering the fact that council may end up sponsoring the application of those projects, I'd like for us to have the opportunity to be able to tour and visit with them and get a good understanding of what their vision is for using those funds. So I don't know what would be required city staff wise, but if we could have some opportunities as council to kind of see what they're working on and how they'd like to use some of that funding if it's made available to them. And then lastly, regular watchers of council, and I think, obviously the media have noticed that I've been attending virtually for the past month. That's because I caught COVID end of July, and it was the sickest I've ever been in my life, for sure. I had really bad headache, body ache, nausea, dizziness, sweating, cold sweating. My temperature was all over the place. I had a over 100-degree fever for 3 straight weeks. Was really, really sick. Sickest I've ever been, certainly more than any seasonal flu I've ever caught. My symptom, or my situation is a little unique. I have some underlying health conditions and stuff like that, but I just wanted to take a moment to remind people as far as testing goes. The health department, they do testing. You can visit caspervcovid.com for more information, or you can drive up their alley and call the phone number in the alley to get tested. It's really confusing as far as what's covered, what's not, what the cost is, but I believe, my understanding is that if you were exposed to a positive case or are symptomatic, that it would be covered. Their rapid antigen testing, if you test negative on that, they have what's called a PCR, and they'll send that to the state lab. It takes 2 to 4 days. If you need it same day, I believe you can get that done, but there's an extra cost to that. I believe it's $100. So if you're symptomatic, if you have a runny nose, or if you're coughing or something, if you're sick, please stay home. That goes for the kids as well. Don't send them off to school. Wash your hands regularly. Cough in your arm. I can't stand seeing people cough in their hands, especially these days. It's so gross. So please, some of that basic etiquette, socially distance, wear a mask if you're willing. Make sure your vitamin D levels are appropriate. Spend time outside. Focus on your diet and exercise. I think it's been reported multiple times that the hospitalizations and positive cases are increasing in our community, and that's causing issues for us as a city, and a lot of employers out there that are already struggling to get good work. They're having lots of their employees out, and that impacts the services they provide, the services that we as a city provide, and you're going to be waiting longer, and you're not going to get as good quality service and stuff. So I would just encourage people to do what you can and what you're willing to help keep everyone healthy in our community. That's all. Thank you.
We're glad you're back. It's been kind of quiet the last few meetings. Vice Mayor Pacheco.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple things. Well, actually, just one thing. The LGBTQ Advisory Committee had their meeting on Friday. I was able to attend that. Councilman Nell was also there in attendance, as he was invited to come and take a look and see how things were going. So it was a good meeting. We talked about the proposed ordinance moving forward. They created a small group task force to kind of start putting the ordinance together of what they think should be in there, and how they're going to look at that, and then present that obviously to the city and the city staff, and then to us as we move forward, looking to see what needs to be in there. So that'll be probably within the next month or so that we'll be hearing from them as they're putting that all together. They also talked about the Safe Place project, which is coming out of Seattle, which identifies businesses and so forth of safe places in the community. We were kind of presented on that. So they were looking at some things, and Carter had a conversation, and I know he would talk a little bit really quick about it, but there were some issues with the Seattle Police Department that wanted to look at some of our ordinances and asked us to maybe change some of the things that we do ordinance-wise. And so I know Carter and the Chief of Police and a few other people were not comfortable with that. I think we would be uncomfortable trying to change the essence of some of the things in our ordinances. So the task force, or the committee, has decided to back off that Safe Place project from Seattle and create their own here in Casper, so that we can identify those safe businesses for people of the LGBTQ community, and maybe even branch out to find out how places in the community are safe for multiple people and in the community. So they're going to be doing that. So look forward to them presenting what that looks like for us for the Safe Place project. In addition to that, Mallory Pollock came from Pride.org, from Pride, excuse me, and came and chatted a little bit about what they've been doing, the work that they're doing, especially the equality map and the Pride Guide, which I had no idea about the equality map. Is it Travis? Travis, what's his last name? I can't think of his last name. Anyway, citizen here in Casper created the quality map that identifies businesses that support LGBT, what was it? Glasgow, thank you. Travis Glasgow, who created the equality map and has kind of updated it, which identifies places in Casper that support and businesses that support LGBTQ initiatives and that movement. So anyway, it was a really good meeting. I don't know if Bruce wanted to say anything about his time with there, and so he stayed after a little bit, as he had mentioned. So I don't want to put him on the spot or anything like that. So
I don't mind at all, thank you. It was actually very eye-opening and enlightening for me. I guess I've never paid a lot of attention to that demographic, if you will, and I was more interested in what are they really going through, what is different, and they're ostracized and they're not treated well, and they're for no other reason than just being who they are. And my heart went out to them. I'm very interested in helping them with their legislation. In fact, I came up with a couple ideas to help them, which I know they're going to run with. And so it was pretty enlightening. So I guess for those of you out there who used to be like me and don't pay any attention to that, these are human beings who just happen to have differences than maybe the mainstream, I guess, if you will. And, you know, they have every right to be free and to be cared for and to not be abused and mistreated. And a lot of that's going on here. And I know a lot of it has to do with our great state of Wyoming, and we're very red here. We're also very redneck, and I used to be one of those as well. But my eyes have been opened. So I guess my point I'm trying to make is if it would behoove you to go to one of those meetings and really find out what these human beings are going through, and it will certainly enlighten you and help change your mind. So it did me.
that's all.
That's it?
Yep,
Nope,
that's all
you're
I got.
good. Okay. I just have two things. Visit Casper, we had a meeting today. They're having a ambassadors class in October, and they've invited everybody from council that wants to attend. It's a one-day class. I think it's like $25 or something like that. So be a good class to go through. If anybody's interested, I'll get the date for you and we can get people signed up. The other thing is, and I didn't bring it up last week, completely forgot about it. And, Carter and I were talking about it, and we forgot to bring it up, but I need to bring it up tonight. Last week, Boys and Girls Club, the police department, so we've had Ashley Bright and myself got together with a lot of different people in the community that work with youth. And they put on a teen night, basically, last Thursday night, David Street Station, and it was phenomenal. I mean, they grilled hamburgers and hot dogs, and they fed a lot of people, and it was just a great night. And our issues that we've been having down there, at least, were down to nothing. They would like to repeat that. We did put in $500 last week to help out with food and whatnot. They would like to do it the next 2 weeks. Carter can move forward with that, but he'd rather have everybody's blessing in spending that kind of money to put out there for the food again. But for all intents and purposes, and I don't know if Shane wants to say something, but I talked to the chief the other day, and he said that it was absolutely, it did what we wanted it to do. And I think to finish out the rest of this summer season is probably a good idea that we move forward and work with the Boys and Girls Club on this and help them any way we can. So I guess with that being said, I'm just asking with a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you're okay and us doing the same thing next 2 weeks. Okay. All right. Other than that, I've got nothing else. So unless you have anything else, Mr. Henley?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
We'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.